Hi, I'm Michael Parisi, the Loving on Purpose life coach. I'm calling my little series this week Moving on to 70. 70 years old. That's what I'm going to be at the end of the week. Can't believe it. And each day I'm taking a different characteristic that I've discovered about myself that I only appreciate now that I'm almost 70. Today I'm talking about being open minded. Now, being open minded was not always a bad thing when I was growing up. There were certain things it was important to be open minded about, such as accepting other people for who they were. We did not grow up in a racist household. We grew up being very accepting of other people. We loved uh, all sorts of other activities people were doing. Uh, we were very tolerant in our home. But as I grew up, as I got older, as I dealt with being bullied in junior high school and a lot of other things that happened along the way, I found my mind closing in on itself. I became less open minded. I got really involved in Christianity in general and eventually became a Catholic priest. As a priest, I was very orthodox, if you want to put it in those terms, about doctrine. And I was very open minded about morality in private, that is. When I was counseling people, I tried my very best to focus them on what was best for them, as well as using the church's teachings as a guide, but not as a hammer to hit over their heads. But then there were times when I had to be very firm about what the church was teaching because I knew they wouldn't get away with whatever they wanted to get away with if they became public. So I was trying very hard to keep them in the church and yet maintain their singularity and their dignity. Didn't always work. But for myself, I became less and less open minded about certain areas of life. As a result, I think it showed in some of my preaching and some of my public stances I might have taken. And in other public stances, it didn't show quite as much. For example, in Massachusetts, when the law to allow LGBT people to get married was coming up in the state house, the church, the Catholic Church, was very much against it and was always fighting against it. But I knew the Catholic Church was going to lose. This was a very popular issue among most people in Massachusetts. I did not make a big deal of the church's objections to gay marriage. I got into some trouble with parishioners as a result of that. I was trying to be respectful and open minded and be kind to those who were looking for a civil solution to their relationships. As I left the priesthood, I became even more open minded about a lot of things. And I realized that understanding myself as a person who would first of all look at the situation objectively and not make a prejudgment was more important than having my mind made up automatically. There are some things that we think we hold very dear to us as values, and that's extremely important. At the same time, however, those values might change over time, or we may get new insights into those values based on what other people are saying and doing. And we realize that maybe things aren't as bad as they really are. Using gay marriage as an example, how many people have seen the destruction of the American system because of gay marriage? This was a fear that a lot of people had, and yet it hasn't come true at all. And this is so true about so many other things where we need to be more open, more accepting. And I've learned that it's good to start with that and then judge later whether or not my decision was a good one. So being open minded has been a great gift to me as I'm hitting 70, and I will be continuing to be open minded and non judgmental as best as I can because it doesn't help anybody, including myself, to be the kind of person who's going to heal and help others, especially as a life coach. What about you? How have you become more open minded with time? How have your experiences with yourself, with your children, with your partners and spouses, with your family members, with society? How have these experiences made you a more tolerant and loving person? I'd love to hear. Let me know.